You know what that looked like? That looked like a game from the 2021 season. Now, when we look back at things, we tend to remember the result and remember the championship year and that. But the truth of the matter is, during that season, there were a ton of games where the Warriors didn't shoot the ball well, but they won the game because of their rebounding and their effort. And I don't know when the last time they won a game like that. What were they? 4 of 22 from downtown last night in Brooklyn. But it was the hustle, the effort, and the willingness to attack the rim and stick to the script that allowed them to pull out a game that, at least halfway through felt like they probably shouldn't win. And what they did was they inverted the offense. How many tight window passes did Draymond make last night, right? Like, he almost had 10 turnovers, but he only had 3. He was on his Purdy, right? He was just fitting it in tight windows. And in the past, typically, when a team is over aggressive and they're top locking the shooters, they say, okay, we'll run back door. And it's like it's the second option. It's like, oh, you're going to take the 3 away. Now we'll go back door. The Warriors came out with intention to cut to the basket and score in the paint, even without top locking. If they're face guarding, they're in my space, I'm cutting to the basket. And that's what led to all those tight passes. And you're also seeing the inversion of the offense with Kaminga on ball, Steph screens, Klay screens. And it's a different look. It's a refreshing look. And it's a different style to win a game, right? You need different tools in the tool belt. You got to have different ways to win games. Otherwise, you're just going to be too limited. Kaminga, it feels in a way like it's happened overnight, right? It really has been a process, but this leap and this step into like him climbing to the top of the scouting report after Steph and just being a featured guy, it's just happened right in a matter of like 10 days. And with that comes more scrutiny and more attention from the other teams. And I think what teams are starting to do is they're trying to get him on the pickup because they realize once he elevates, it's over for you. You have to get him when he's gathering the ball. Once he elevates, it's a done deal. So you're seeing guys start to do that more often. And then I think the other thing that teams are doing as a defensive team concept is they're sending a double late. It's either on the spin or on the pickup. They'll bring the help late because he's shown if you bring it early, he's willing to make the pass, right? And if you don't bring it at all, your guy's going to get cooked. And so I think he's going to have to understand and understand where that help is coming from before he gets into his move, because he's not going to see it. They usually wait for the spin or when he's already like kind of determined his move. But you saw him get out in transition, 12 free throws. But how do you get out in transition? Defense. Right? There was a defensive effort. It didn't look perfect. There's still switching issues where I see like the young guys, if they can easily get over the screen, they're like, I'm just going to easily get over this, right? But the older vets are like, no, we're switching everything. Let's not confuse things, right? It's universal. And so you see a little bit of that, but they more than made up for it with their effort last night. Let's talk about it though. You may know him as Guy. Pretty soon we might have to start calling him G. Klay Santos, man. You can go back to the beginning of the year when we officially signed him. I had a video about it. I've been excited about Klay Santos. Leandro Barbosa's protege, played for the Brazil national team. He was in the G League last year. And Klay is an interesting player, man, because he has a lot of kind of intangibles and traits that you can't teach. Now, he's kind of happy-footed, right? He's a little clumsy out there, right? He's not fundamental, is what I'll say, right? His feet come together, they kind of shuffle, he scampers around. But with that, he has a motor that you can't teach. Clearly, you saw that last night. He loves physicality downhill. He's not afraid to mix it up. And then he's able to finish at all these weird angles and slips, and he has all these Englishes, very much like Barbosa. I don't know if he was taught that way, but he has a uniqueness to his game. And I'm just as shocked as everyone else. Him closing the game was extreme, right? Like I was like, okay, wow, right? And what cracked me up most about the post-game comments was Steve having the nerve to say, well, we were playing well, and so you got to go with what works. That's kind of a general rule in coaching. If we're playing well, you don't want to change that. Like, word? Like, where's that been your whole career? Like, what? That's never been his philosophy. It's funny how he's just going to throw that out there now. But, hey, this is a positive video because it was a positive game, and credit to Kerr for sticking with that, right? I know some of you were upset about Trace not getting in there, but We'll see. We'll see. Let's focus on Guy and his ability to cut off the ball. He's one of those right spot, right time guys, as you saw, and just a relentless motor. He's a big boy, 6'8", 220, and likes the physicality, right? And he plays fast, and he made a ton of mistakes, but he was able to make up for it with his effort. And so all of a sudden, you throw this big body wing forward guy in there that looks like he's ready to contribute. Next up, Lester Quinones, another kind of similar path to Guy. Now, we didn't draft Lester, but he's been in the G League circuit for us for a while now. Jordan Poole's boy. And listen, if he is going to embrace the defensive side of the ball like he has, that's going to alter his career. All of a sudden, he's going to be a rotational NBA player. And I just didn't see that coming. And someone had thrown out the Damian Lee comp to me. Like, he could do, he's definitely more athletic than Damian Lee, probably not as good at actual fundamental basketball as D. Lee. How about Kent Bazemore? How about a young Kent Bazemore? That's the type of vibes I'm getting from him, where he's a pest, he knows it, and he embraces it, right? And you saw him all over Cam Thomas. And again, these young guys, they're going to make mistakes. They don't have a ton of experience, but they made up for it with an effort. And he's the type of defender where his effort level's so high, he's so quick and pesky that he tends to speed the guys up. And Cam Thomas, he dropped him off a couple times, but by that point, he was already sped up by the effort that Quinones had put in from midcourt. And so adding those two guys to the mix, listen, I can't call the rotation. We may not see them play until after the All-Star break, knowing how these rotations go. Moody's back. I know people wanted to see more of Moody, but the truth of the matter is when you're nursing a calf injury, you can't really condition. Like, sure, you could probably ride a bike, but you can't do any basketball movements. You can't slide your feet. You can't jump. And so, I don't think his conditioning is probably there to play more than the 15 minutes he did, but when he was in there, he contributed. It felt like everybody contributed. Brandon Pajemski, if it's too early to have this conversation, right? We're only halfway through this class's rookie season, but when we do want to have the conversation about redrafting this class, he's easy in the top 10, easy, right? Like, it's easy. Real quick, Underdog Fantasy, use the code Alchemy, get 100% bonus up to $100 on your first deposit. It really helps support the channel. Some of you, I know, considering the Patreon, which is always awesome. This is another way that you can support the channel. I do have another Super Bowl pick, and it's a juiced one. I'm going to go higher than 2.5 touchdowns for Patty Mahomes, which wouldn't bode well for the Niners, right? But I just like the 2 times boost on that. And then I'm going to add to that one CMC getting in the end zone, because it's like death, taxes, and Christian McCaffrey scoring a touchdown. So those are picks juiced this week's Super Bowl. Again, use the code Alchemy, Underdog Fantasy. Let's talk about Klay Thompson. Let's talk about Klay Thompson. It's been very divisive amongst the fan base. I understand both sides of it. And, there's a human element to this, right? If we want to talk basketball, I think we all can agree about the struggle, right? It's the human element, and it's rough to watch him struggle out there and kind of wear it on his sleeve mentally. Now, he played the right way last night. He moved the ball, and he played the right way last night. Absolutely. I think the problem is he didn't enjoy it. And maybe it's just going to take time for him to accept a new role. And you heard him post-game all but say that, right? He played the right way, but he wears it physically. Like, you can say the right things, but what do your actions say? What does your body language say is almost more important as a teammate. And so he said the right things and he played the right way, but I think we all could feel his angst and how tough it was for him to do, right? And then you heard Draymond go in there and kind of try to disrupt the interview. Draymond is slick, bro. He knew what he was doing. He was singing all loud and goofy. He was like, what he was trying to do was be like, Klay, say less, say less. Like, don't give them this sound. Don't pour your heart out right now. Just say less. And Draymond kind of protected him a little bit in that scenario. But I also think that Klay being vulnerable and opening up to how he feels is a step in the right direction, and just acknowledging it, because that's the first step. Right. And I think if he plays the way he played last night and Kaminga continuing to draw all the attention, the hustle from the young guys on 50-50 balls, eventually he'll have some nights where he hits 5, 6 threes, right? He's just got to be more patient about it and get it off other people's actions. And so, yeah, I get both sides of the argument from the fan base. Some of this is on Klay. Some of this is on the situation. Some of this was unpreventable because you are who you are at your core. And so I think we got to give him time to adjust to this new role. The key is, what are your actions? And his actions last night on the court were he did what he was supposed to do. And what do you know? They pulled off the win. Now we've got an Embiid-less Sixers team that's probably going to be out for revenge Wednesday night. Tyrese Maxey is a handful, but I am excited to see them build off this with this new blend, this new hybrid inverted offense and blending in the young guys. And then the trade deadline is Thursday, right? Is Chris Paul going to ever play again for the Warriors? It remains to be seen. I will hop on Thursday as these trades break, or if they don't, but you can expect some content from me on the trade deadline as well. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.